Hi, so previously on this channel I made other videos about the MPV-EDL format, and that is a format that allows you to essentially edit videos in a plain text file and then play that file as an MPV. So let me see. So here is the specification of this format. So the MPV-EDL files kind of look like this, and basically this is how you can edit your videos in plain text. But what I thought would be nice to do is to create a preprocessor that would essentially have an easier plain text format that would then convert that easier format in the standard MPV one, because if you there was this other example here, for example, like the lines in MPV-EDL files tend to kind of look like this, and this is very difficult to edit by hand. So I figured I would create a format that would allow it to easier editing by hand, still in a plain text file, but in a more convenient way. So let me show you what I came up with. I basically wrote this program that is called ezEDL. That's what I call the format and the program itself. So let's take a quick look at what it does. So like in this test directory, I just have a couple of sample EDL files that I worked with while writing this program. So if I just print out the contents of one of them, this is how it looks. So now if I pass it to ezEDL, it will convert it to the ezEDL format, and you'll see how it looks. So I also use bat to just make the output appear like this with the line numbers and stuff, so that we can see the file more clearly. So this is what you get in the output. So essentially it converts this to this, and these two are equivalent. Basically you can then save this stuff to a file and then convert it back, and you'll get this exact same output. So this is the format. As you can see, it kind of probably looks familiar to anyone who ever edited configuration files and stuff. So this format is based on this kind of INI format, which has different varieties and stuff, but here's a Wikipedia article that describes the format, and what it has essentially these sections which have this kind of header in square brackets, and then there's a series of key value pairs, and this is the entire format. This particular example also uses semicolons for comments. I used just number signs in my format, but that's a minor difference. So the entire structure is just like this. It's just like a header in square brackets and then key value pairs, and that's it. So that makes it very easy to edit in a plain text editor. Basically you have these every line essentially of the original EDL file get converted into a section. You can see that we have an empty line here, the line 2, and it also creates a section for that empty line to preserve it, but that's a minor thing. Let's actually take a look at a segment, which is the thing that plays video or audio. So this line 7 is a segment, and if we take a look over here, we have this. This is what this line 7 gets converted to. It's this. So as you can see, the first key value pair is just the file name. One thing that probably jumps out right away is that you have this kind of when you look at the original MPV-EDL format, you have these percent signs and then a number between the percent signs. What this does is basically it tells the interpreter of that original format how long the argument is. So it says that this is 8 bytes long. This is done so that like if there's a comma in the file name, so it can tell apart the comma that is a part of the file name from a comma that is a separator of the arguments. This is like really cumbersome to edit by hand, and of course since I made a preprocessor, that all that stuff gets created automatically, and I'll show you that later in the video. But yeah, basically you just put test your file name, and then you get this in the output if you convert it back. So like these numbers get taken care of automatically. You don't have to think about that at all. And it's not only the file names, it's also like any argument. It can be any value of any argument. You can see that there's these percent signs in other places. So that's one thing that ezEDL takes care of. Like another thing is the time code. So the MPV-EDL format uses seconds with milliseconds to when working with time, and I basically think that it's much easier to kind of deal with this format. When you look at it, you're kind of used to like seeing hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. That's kind of a pretty standard timestamp format. So this is what ezEDL uses by default, even though you can still use seconds if you prefer, but this is the default. So it converts the timestamps into this. Another thing is that to define the length of the segment, the original format uses the length value. So not the end, the way I have here in ezEDL, but the length. So this says that like it start at 1 second and play for 2 seconds. And over here in the converted version, we have like start at 1 second and end at 3 seconds. So ezEDL allows you to kind of avoid that working with length at all, and just use the start and the end for to define the segment. Basically, it's start and end points. You can still use length. There is an option to change that, but the default is to use end instead of length. So just a quick note about that. I had a script, or I still have a script that essentially I made a video about this script on my channel, but it's this where is it? ab-loop-to-edl-segment. So my previous kind of way or approach to editing MPV-EDL files was to use this script, and essentially what it does is that you set an AB loop in the video while you're watching it, and then you press a key combination, then it creates an MPV-EDL lines looking sort of like this, and you then can copy it to a text file, and that's how you can edit videos with by using the original format. That was my previous approach, but I think it's going to be much easier to do it with the ezEDL format. One other thing though is that I have another script here that will help out when editing MPV or editing ezEDL files, and this is this copy timestamp script, because it will copy this exact thing that you need to get the start and end. So you can simply open the video, find the point where you want to start your segment, press the key combination, copy the timestamps from MPV to the timestamp from MPV to your text file, then find the end of that section, copy that into the text file, and then there you have your segment. So, and this, it looks very readable and it's clear. So yeah, this is kind of one of the things that ezEDL helps with. So yeah, and finally this final argument is just the title of a chapter, which yeah, you can have chapters automatically added to MPV-EDL files. For each segment there will be a chapter, and you can set a title for that chapter by using this argument. And of course you can do the same by using ezEDL format. This header actually disables the chapters. You can read about that in the original documentation, and I have other videos on my channel that talk about that. I'll link to some of that stuff in the description. So so we talked about, I kind of mentioned this empty line because it's very simple. Like, this section doesn't have any key value pairs, it's just empty line to keep an empty line there. And then we talked about the segments. Then you have the headers, which kind of works similarly. You have the type, which is just this thing after the exclamation mark. And then all of the arguments that the header might have, they also get, they just get their own key, which is the name of the argument, and the value, which is the value of the argument, and that's it. Those are headers. And then so we have empty lines, headers, and segments so far. And then the fourth type is the comments. So you can also add comments so that, like, the EDL, when you convert from ezEDL back to MPV-EDL, you can have comments in there, so that, like, to make sure that in the output file there's a comment. You can create a comment like this. You just put comment in square brackets, and then you have the content key. This is the only key that's possible in this particular section, and then you put the content there, and you can repeat this key value pair as many times as you want. That will produce several commented out lines in the output file. So this is the format. Essentially, yeah, like, okay, like, one thing that I'm gonna add to this is that, like, in this last line, it uses timestamps equals chapters, and whenever you have this this argument set for a segment, it uses chapters instead of time. So this means that start at chapter 1, and the original has the length of 2, but the ezEDL one has end at chapter 3. So works like time, but with chapters. So yeah, and this is pretty much the entire ezEDL format. I haven't written the specification for the format yet, but it's pretty easy. So I hope, like, this explanation will do in terms of, like, how to edit them. So yeah, I might mention some other things while I talk about the format in this video. When it comes to how to, like, write it, but most of it is, like, has already been covered. So now that we've talked about the format, I just before I start talking about different options that this program has and stuff like that, I also wanted to show you one important feature that it has. Basically, if I were to use ezEDL like we just were doing so far, so I can just have, like, EDL and then pass the file to it, convert it to the ezEDL format, then save this to, like, test1.ezEDL, press enter again. I can then open test1.ezEDL in a text editor, edit this, save this, quit out of the editor, and then go again, like, ezEDL test1.ezEDL to test 1.edl or something like that, or like test 1.1, whatever. So, and then convert it back, and then you can play it. But, like, this is, like, a lot of you know, fiddling with like commands, and like this is gonna be a huge pain in editing, and like the whole point of this is to make things easier. So I took care of that. Let me remove this file that I just generated, so that we have like only our original test files. So basically what I did is I added a mode to this ezEDL program that will open a text editor and compile things on the fly. So let me show you how this works. This is pretty cool, I think. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So if I open a file while passing this -e option, it will do this, and it already kind of you can probably see what happened here. So it converted the file and it opened it in Vim in this top pane, and in the bottom pane we have the original. So as you can see, like, it used a temporary directory where it the temporary directory is home.cache ezEDL, and then it changed the file name slightly, but basically this is what it generated as a temporary file for us to work with and edit. You can also save this file if you want. You don't have to use the temporary directory. I'll talk about this later. But right now, basically, you have the original at the top, and not the original, the ezEDL at the top and the original at the bottom, and you can start editing things here. And like, this is cool. Just check this out. So if I start editing this, start making changes in this ezEDL file. Let me change this blah to blah with the H at the end. And so it will, it's editing this line over here in this place. So now if I save this file, it gets compiled on the fly, and the original gets updated, and it refreshes the bottom pane as well. So you can like edit whatever you want, and like you can preview the results immediately, and you can see that it works, it compiled because the file has updated. So it's very kind of, you're sure that that your EDL file has been updated. So now you can just like open another like pane in your terminal or something, and then you can play it and see that everything looks right. So this is very helpful when it comes to editing. And yes, it compiles things on the fly, so you don't have to do all of that like converting back and forth with commands and stuff. So yeah, this is the edit mode, basically. I'll talk more about this later. Now let's take a look at this now let's explore the different options that this program offers, and we'll talk more about both the default mode, where you just like do things on the command line, and then the edit mode as well. So over here in this top pane, I have the man page for ezEDL opened, and let's scroll down to the section that is called compiling, or subsection rather, of the options section. And let's take a look at the different options. These options basically govern how what happens when you convert from one format to another, and what changes take place and what changes don't take place. So let me open another pane here and then make it all equal. And basically over here in this middle pane, I'll just display test1.edl, our original faucet, so that we can see it. And here in the bottom pane, I'll be showing you how the options work. So up until now, we've been just doing this, and this is the output that we were getting. Now let's try out some of these options and see what changes. Just one thing to mention: when you see this per file thing, that only applies to the edit mode. I'll talk about that later. So right now we're working with the default mode, just converting things on the command line, but these options themselves, they apply to both the default mode and to edit mode. So yeah, it's just easier to demonstrate it like this before like opening the text editor and stuff. Let's just take a look at what we can change when it comes to how the formats get converted one to another. So this first option, -t convert timestamps. So what this does is basically it tells ezEDL whether or not to convert the seconds to the hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. So by default it is enabled, because I thought it would be just kind of much nicer to work with this format by default rather than with seconds. But you can disable it, and you can pass the -T, and then you will get seconds in the output. Note that it still uses the and, but you can change that as well. But right now it still uses and, but that and is in seconds rather than in hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. So that is convert timestamps, the convert timestamps option. Now the second one, I have a typo here. It should be capital A over here. So -A or -A. Convert length to end. So this, like the name suggests, tells ezEDL whether or not to convert length to end. By default, it does convert it again, because I thought it would be just much more intuitive to work with end rather than with length. But you can work with length as well by changing this option. Yeah, like A stands for like alternative. I have this word in this description here. So like it's like an alternative notation for the timestamps. Basically, this kind of a way to remember why it is -A. So yes. So if I pass -A to disable the default, then we will get length instead of end here, and we can see that it's still kind of it's the same as in the original file, because we both disabled the timestamp conversion and the length to end conversion. So we have 1 and 2, just like in the original file. And so there's 2 more options when it comes to compiling. The second one is -B. The long versions include empty lines, and -B disables that. So by default it does include the empty lines, and what that does is basically, so far we have this empty line section here added here when we convert. But if you want the most compact way of like doing things, then we can use the -B to disable that, and then empty lines just get ignored. And B stands for blank. Again, like I say here, preserve blank lines. So that's again like a way to remember that. So yeah, that's to include or not to include empty lines. And finally, the fourth option that we have here is to whether or not to include comments. So yeah, like we have this comment here consisting of 2 lines, and this is what it gets converted to. If you want to ignore the comments, you can do that, and then there will be no comment. And so you have like this as the output. So like this is with all of the options set to the opposite of default. Everything is disabled. So everything is in seconds. It uses the length, and it ignores the empty lines and the comments. So these are the compiling options. You can set that to your preference. You can also use the configuration file to change that. So this is how it looks. Just to kind of mention quickly how to use the configuration file. Basically, here's the contents of the repository, and you have a sample config file there in the root directory. It's called config.bash. So if we look at the on GitHub, it's just over here. So you can see it's the same file, and so you can simply copy this file to this directory, home.config, then create a directory there, ezEDL, and then put the config.bash there. So that's how to work with the config file. And you have all of the options here commented out, and you can uncomment whatever you need and change that. So like here are the 4 options that we just talked about. And yeah, if you want to disable it, just remove the 1. That's basically like a true or false thing. So like if you remove the 1, it disables the option. So this is how you can change things in the configuration file. So yeah, we've already taken a look at the edit mode a little bit. So let's see what else it can do. So we have 2 files here in this directory. We can actually open both of them at the same time in edit mode. So I'll just pass start.edl to match both of those files, and I'll press enter, and so now we have both of them opened here. So in separate tabs, and each tab is split into two panes, and you can edit things here. So there is a little bug that I wanted to mention, and that I wasn't able to solve just yet. But basically, when you have multiple files like this, let me close this for a second, and I'll just add one more file to make things a bit more clear. So we'll open 3 files instead of 2. So now we have 3 files here and here. So if I were to like start editing, and I started with like one of the later files and not the first one, and basically I made a change and I tried to save it, and over here things didn't get updated. So like this is a bug and I wasn't able to solve it yet, but basically the way to work around that is you need to run save each of the previous files in the sequence, so at least once. So just run write on each one, and then the one that you were editing will also start responding here. It has updated. So this is a little bug, and yeah, basically I created an issue in the on GitHub, and I added the information about this over here to README as well, and I opened this issue where I describe kind of things in more technical detail and exactly what is happening. It has to do with Vim auto commands. So if anyone knows Vim script well and they would like to, they have some suggestions about how to solve this, then yeah, be sure to reply in this issue. But yeah, I wasn't able to solve it just yet, so, but it's no big deal. Basically, you just have to remember that you have to like save each file at least once for the later files to start, like the auto commands. Basically, these auto commands for the later files to start responding. So yeah, a bit of a Vim script issue. So I wasn't able to figure out how to solve it. So if anyone knows, please reach out. I'd be glad to hear from you. So yeah, but the edit mode, basically you can edit multiple files here and they will open like this, each one in a separate tab. There's also different layouts that you can use. So there's 3 layouts that I came up with. Basically, the default one is this, a split, and so it's called split, of course, because it splits each tab into 2 separate panes. If you like the other options that you have here are simple and tabs. So simple just opens each of the converted files in a separate tab. And you don't see the original at all, but everything else works just the same. So this is the simple layout, and then there's the tab layout, which opens each file in its own tab. So you have the converted, then the original, then converted, and then the original, and so on. So these are the layout options. Yeah, one little tweak to the default split layout is that you can adjust the height of that bottom pane. So, so yeah, this is how it looks by default, and by default it just takes basically it sets it to the 1/3 of screen height. This bottom pane, that's what the value is. It's 1/3 of the screen height. So, but you can change it if you want to. You can one of the things you can do is you can unset it by just passing an empty string to this -h or vim-split-height option, and that will just make those panes equal. Or you can pass an integer that will just tell Vim to make that pane a certain number of lines of height. So this makes, if I pass 5, then it makes it 5 lines tall. So that's how that works. Let me see. So what else we can talk about here? Yeah, like one other thing about the editor or the edit mode is there's this editor option, and it has 4 possible values. So the auto is the default, and then you have Vim and Vim for Neovim, and then custom. So if you want to use, basically the deal is that if you want to use another text editor other than Vim or Neovim, then you won't get this autosave and auto-compiling. But you can still use another text editor if you want to by using this custom option, and I'll show you how to set it up. Just to kind of explain briefly how this auto thing works, it basically takes a look at the values of your visual and editor environment variables, and it first looks at the visual. If that is not set, and then it takes a look at the editor. And so look, if out of that evaluating that sequence, either Vim or nVim comes out, then it uses that. If it's neither of those things, if it's neither Vim or nVim that you have visual or editor set to, then it will use custom. This is how this works. This is because just those scripts that get generated to autosave and autocompile, they're specifically Vim scripts, so this is why this is implemented in this way. But you can still use other text editors, and let me show you how to do that. So let me open this config file again. So in the config file, you have this editor custom function commented out here. So I actually just found a little bug in the script, and basically this is what the custom function is supposed to look like. So you can use, in this function, you can use basically these 3 arrays. Like the first one is just the positional parameters. That's all the source files. That's basically, if you're converting EDL to ezEDL, then that's going to be your EDL files, the original ones. So then the destination files are going to be, in this example, again, going to be the ezEDL, what you've converted to. And then source and destination files, they are the converted file, then the original file, and then the next converted file, the next original file, and so on. So these are available for you to use in this function. And so the default function, now that I changed it, I'll add I'll update the code basically by the time I release the video. But so yeah, this is what the default function looks like. And now if we use it, so if I pass -v custom, now every all of the converted files open in Nano. So yeah, I don't remember how to switch buffers in Nano, but over here you can see that there's 3 of them that were opened, and this is the first one. If I just start closing them one after another, we'll see each file. So yeah, I'm not gonna bother figuring out how to switch buffers in Nano right now, because I don't use it normally. So those are the editor options. So now let's talk about some of the other options that ezEDL has, and one thing that's good to know is this -F or -F option. Basically, this allows you to save the file rather than create a temporary file. So if I wanted to basically, let's say I have, let's say I'm working on some, trying to edit some videos, and I have like these EDL files here, and I want to actually have the ezEDL files as well. So I don't want to just temporarily generate them and then delete them, because that's what happens by default. So if you do this, you can see that it creates some temporary files in the cache directory, and once I close the editor, I can work with them here, and I can save things, and they will get converted automatically, and the original files will get updated. But then once I close the editor, those files in the cache will be gone. You can kind of, yeah, okay, let's kind of jump back to this previous option. If you use this -K option, they will be kept. So you could pass this -K option to keep the temporary files, and basically when kind of you do things like this, you can see the path to the file here. So you can do that, but you can also save the file to your preferred location and not work with the temporary files at all. So in order to save the files to location that you want, you can use that -F option. So right now we have just test1.edl and test2.edl here in this folder, but if I pass the -F option, now we kind of, everything looks almost the same, but now the path is different here. It says test1.ezEDL, and so now if I close it and I'll run less again, we can see that those files were saved here. I personally like keeping both of those, so this is how you can do it. Now, one thing that is also important to know, that I just ran this command, basically -F, to save files to this location. So now there's already files there, and if I run the same command again, it will throw errors and say that those files already exist. But there's an option here that also gives a suggestion to pass the -O option, and that option, the long version is edit open if exists. So if the file already exists, it won't generate a new file. It will just open the file that's already there. So this is the way to use this -F option to not save the file, but just point to a location of the file where you already have it. But yeah, and I'll show you how to specify a different location than the current directory. But basically, if you want to use like just open the files that are already there, use the -o option, and then it will simply open what already exists there, because you might want to keep these files for reasons like maybe you just have some comments here, and these comments won't go into the original files at all. This is just something that you put here for yourself. So this way you can still save you can still keep all of that, and simply use the -o option to open it and continue working here. So now if I start changing things, everything still works, and so yeah, this is what that is for, and this is how that works. Okay, so now let's talk about how you can save files to a specific location and give those files a file name. This is also a good point to start talking about per file options and how that works, because like a lot of these options that are described in this man page, as you can see, they have this per file next to them, and so some of these options can be used on a per file basis. So like this save file is one of them, because you probably want to give like different file names if you're editing several files. You might want to give each one of them a separate file name, so it's a per file option. Basically, yes, we'll talk about that. Like one thing that I wanted to mention too is that if you watched my videos or used my search and subs script and watched videos about it, then you might recognize this format. It's the same format as I use in search and subs. So yes, if you already know that, this will be clear to you. But also one of the reasons that I mentioned search and subs is because search and subs can itself generate EDL files. It's a script that allows you to search for subtitles, for text in subtitle files, and then generate EDL files based on that. So you can search for some word in the subtitle file, and then you can generate EDL from that, and it will play like a compilation of those segments that it found in the videos. And then you can now edit these generated files with ezEDL as well. So you can even tweak the output of search and subs. So I'll show an example using search and subs later in this video too. Yeah, so this is kind of one of the cool things that ezEDL allows you to do as well. Let's now talk about how to save files, and we'll come back to the search and subs thing later. So right now in this directory we just have 2 files. So let's say I wanted to save my ezEDL files to some other place. So maybe I'll just create a directory called ezEDL. Let's say I wanted to put all of the ezEDL files into that directory. So I can do that by using the -f option, and then passing the name of the directory to that option. Now, one side note, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but basically with this option you have to pass the value directly after the option letter. You can't have a space there, because this is an option that takes optional arguments. More information about this you can find in this passing arguments to options subsection. So just take a look at that to make things clear for yourself about that. I'm not going to spend time talking about it because there's a lot to talk about as it is. And I talked about this issue in my other videos, so maybe you heard about it as well already. But yeah, so since this option takes an optional argument, you need to pass the value directly after the option letter. So it's just -f and then ezEDL. And so now if I press enter, save direction. Oh, I made a typo. ezEDL. So now if I press enter, you can see that those files were put into this subdirectory ezEDL. So this is how that works. Or rather, that's one use of the -f option. There's more to it, but we'll take a look at that in a second. Now that I got these error messages, that gives me an opportunity to mention this edit-save-mkdir option as well. So if you want the directory, the save directory created automatically, maybe let's just say ezEDL-1, so that does not exist. If you want it to get created automatically, just pass the -d and it will get created. You can see it here, ezEDL-1. Okay, so now let's take a look at how to pass options per file. There is, by the way, a section here that describes how to do that, but I'll just show it to you right now as well. So let's see. So we have this here right now, and we've been doing this basically. So I'll also, just for clarity, I passed start.edl, but that matched to test1.edl and test2.edl. To just like not confuse ourselves, I'll pass them separately. And actually, let me run that copy command again, so we have 3 files, because it will make things clearer. So now we have, let me clear the screen again, and now we have 3 files here. And let's even get rid of that ezEDL directory and just yeah, just have these files here. And so we're going to be editing all of them. I could pass start.edl, but for this explanation I'll just pass them explicitly. So we've been doing this, and this put everything in ezEDL option. So you might wonder, like, well, if this is a per file option, like you pass it once here and then it applied to all files, so how does the per file thing work? So essentially, per file options apply based on how many times they were passed. So if I pass it once, it will apply to file number 1, 2, 3, etc. If I pass it twice, the first pass of the option will apply to file 1. The second one will apply to file 2, and if there were only 2, like it was only passed 2 times, then it will also apply to file 3 as well. So if you want to have a value for file 3, then you have to pass it the 3rd time. So you see how it how it works. I hope it makes sense. Let me kind of demonstrate that though. So I'll just create the subdirectories on the fly with -d option, which we already looked at. So let me just create like ezEDL1 for the first file and ezEDL2 for the second, and all the subsequent files, because I'll only pass -f twice. So now if I press enter, the first file was saved to ezEDL1, the second one to ezEDL2, and since I only passed it twice, the 3rd file also was saved to ezEDL2 because it used this second value. So I hope this makes sense, like now how all the per file options work. All of them that are marked per file work like this. So if you wanted to like keep a temporary file for the first file but not for the second file, you can use that by specifying things accordingly. So that's the per file thing. So this is our result of running this command. Let's see. So this is just directories, but now let's take a look at file names. Basically, like this syntax, there's several possibilities here. So one of the possibilities is to omit the value entirely and just pass -f. And in that case, everything gets saved to the current working directory, and the file name that will be used will be just the file name of the original file with the extension changed to ezEDL instead of EDL. So that's when you omit the value. We already did just passing the directory like this. So now let's, and this is this option, I'll come back to this backslash or forward slash in a moment, but this is the first possibility. Then there's other two possibilities: passing both path and name, or only the name. So let's take a look at the name now. So let's yeah, okay. So instead of calling it test1, maybe I want to call it edit1 dot ezEDL. So to specify the name, you have to put ezEDL there, the extension, because that's how it is able to tell that this is a file name. So if I do this, then this will actually cause a problem, because this will apply to all the files basically. So if you want to, like in this case, since we're passing multiple files, we'll have to do like edit2 as well, because then edit1 will be just like it will overwrite itself basically once it converts to the second file. So let's do one for each file. So now the file name is different. So now if on some like rare occasion you might want to have a directory that has .ezedl in its name, like maybe you have like, I don't know, dir.ezedl. So it would, if you just did this, then it would think that it's a file name. To make it clear to the script that this is indeed a directory, you need to add this forward slash to the end. You can always add it, like, but it's only required if the directory name ends in .ezedl. So this puts everything in dir.ezedl. Yeah, and then you can also pass like both the directory and the file name. That's kind of pretty self-explanatory. So like, let's say ezedl slash edit 1.ezedl and for the second file ezedl slash edit 2.ezedl, and that now I had the space there. It has to be like right after the option letter. So this will set the path, which is just the ezedl subdirectory in this example, and the file name as edit1 and edit2. So that is saving files to a location of your choice. So I basically talked about almost all of the options in this edit mode section, except for this -y edit-save-overwrite option. And what that does is very simple. So here's our test directory, 2 files in there. So if I run, if I edit those files, open them in the edit mode in the text editor with -f option to create ezEDL files in the current directory, we'll get this. And so like now if I try opening it again, we get this error message which we already saw. We only looked at this edit open if exists option, but there's also this edit-save-overwrite option. So that will, instead of opening what is already there, it will overwrite it. So basically, let me first like open them. If I like add a comment there and save it again, and basically if I now, so if I open it again, the comment is still here, but if I pass -y instead of O, then the file got overwritten. So be careful when using this, but yeah, that's what it does. So it overwrites the file, but -O opens it if it's already there. So that's what that does. Okay, so I think we basically talked about the usage of ezEDL quite thoroughly. Like, kind of, I guess, like, okay, one thing that it can also do. Oops, I closed the man page. Hold on a sec. Let me open it again. Okay, so clear 3. Okay, so one other thing that it could do, it could convert files in the opposite direction. It's just like it's not like terribly necessary, but if you wanted to, you could. Basically, you can pass ezEDL files, and then the this is what you're going to be editing, and then it will be generating like I can edit this, and the ezEDL file will get changed, but I'll be editing the original EDL, so it can work in both directions. But that's probably not something that you're going to be using very often, but it can do that. Also, there's all of these direction policy options, and these are kind of related to the direction of conversion, like whether it converts from MPV-EDL to ezEDL or in the opposite direction. Normally, you wouldn't really need to worry about any of this. If you have appropriate extensions and headers in your files in place, then it will determine the direction automatically, and none of this will ever really come up. But if basically what these options do is if an extension is missing or if a header is missing, then these options determine what will happen, basically, whether it will give a warning or an error or do nothing and stuff like that. So this is what this direction policy section is about, but I'm not gonna go into any more depth than this. So now let's do an example of using ezEDL to just edit some EDL files, and for this I will use search and subs to generate EDL files, and then we'll edit them. Basically, I will use the same example I used in my search and subs videos. I have this demo directory here, and there's some videos with subtitles here. So let me do search and subs. I'll search for text, and then if I pass
bilder, det kan vara texter. Att publicera texter som är förståeliga för andra barn.
På ett sätt som absolut jag aldrig skulle göra med deras texter eller så.
Jobba med att lägga ut text.
Bilder, det kan vara texter. Det kan också vara berättelser.
So basically this is going to be our video that we're going to be editing. The reason I wanted to do this particular example is because this first segment, for example, it doesn't start at the right time. So this is what we're gonna edit. You can see that
Bilder, det kan vara texter.
You can see that she starts talking basically at this point in the subtitle, at this word, bilder.
Bilder, det kan vara texter.
So we can fix that. And now I just played these search results, but I can save them by passing the F option. Actually works the same as with ezEDL. I use the same format.
Bilder, det kan vara texter.
And so now it generated the EDL files here. So we have like several files here because of how search and subs generates things. It has to generate separate tracks for subtitles and video, and then put them all together in this main one. But what we can do with ezEDL is simply use the edit mode and pass everything, and just like open it up and start working with it. We're not going to be like saving ezEDL files for this example. We work with a temporary directory. But yes, okay, so here's our files. This is the original, this is the converted one. So let me, I guess, open a new window here.
Bilder, det kan vara texter.
Okay, So I'm not sure how much of an offset I need to add, but maybe a second or something. So let's see. Basically, we'll need to edit, make a change in both the subtitle track and the video track, because that's how it works with search and subs. It just generates 2 tracks, so we'll have to do that twice. So this is the start point. They are basically identical in terms of time codes and stuff. The only difference is the file name. So let's just change this to, yeah, and we have the bug, so I need to save the first file first, and then I can change this one to 24 seconds and this one to 24 seconds. And so now if I play it.
Olika saker, det kan vara bilder, det kan vara texter.
Well, I didn't quite nail the timing, but if I wanted to, I could. Basically, here, the edit worked.
Olika saker, det kan vara bilder, det kan vara texter.
And so you can now edit these things in this way. And yeah, so this is gonna be basically it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this new tool, and it'll help you out in editing EDL files. I really like this this format. I think it's very neat that MPV Player has this way of just playing segments of like whatever video files you might have on your system, and you can just make an edit based on that in a plain text file without creating any additional, like converting those files into an actual video file, which will take up a lot of space. You can have these this text files that just have whatever segments you want from whatever video files you have on your system. So this is a very nice format, and I enjoyed creating this tool, and so hopefully it will kind of ease the workflow for those people who are interested in using this format as well. And so yeah, this is basically it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it valuable, and I'll see you in the next one.